Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sports Now with Darius and Aiden. I am Darius Adams, and thank you for joining us here today as we continue our 2024 NBA Playoff Preview Series. And in today's episode, we're discussing the New York Knicks going up against the Indiana Pacers to kick off the semifinals in the Eastern Conference. Now, to recap the first round, both of these teams had phenomenal outings versus their respective opponents. For the Knicks, they had some great performances from Jalen Brunson as they sent Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey home alongside the Sixers team who has a lot of questions to answer in the offseason in 6 games. And meanwhile, for the Pacers, they faced a depleted Milwaukee Bucks team who was without Giannis for that entire series, and also Damian Lillard for I believe 2 games in that series as well. And they completely dominated for majority of that series and won the 6 games as well. And my prediction has to be the Indiana Pacers winning this series in 7 games. Now, to recap the season series, there were 3 outings between these teams, and in those 3 matchups, all of those 3 were before the All Star break, and the Pacers had the favor as they won 2-1. And the reason why I believe that the Pacers will win this series is due to their fast-paced offense and the fact that New York's front court is completely depleted. Now, in the Bucks series, we saw both sides from the Pacers. We saw the good and the bad. In the first game versus the Bucks, we saw a historic performance from Dame. We had 30 points in the first half, and he was completely unstoppable. There was no answers whatsoever for Dame as far as just trying to contain or neutralize him. Now, in the second half, he didn't have as big of a performance, but overall, the way he was performing for 48 minutes, he could not be stopped. But outside of that, the Pacers had a phenomenal series. You had great performances from Pascal Siakam throughout the first 2 games. I believe he dropped like 37 and 36 in those 2 games. And overall in that series, he averaged 22 points per game, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists. We also had some great performances from Miles Turner as well. He averaged 19 and 7, and he was shooting 44% from three. And I believe Tyrese Halliburton did not play his best brand of basketball, and yet the Pacers still had a way to completely dominate on the offensive side of the ball for the Pacers. Now, for Indy, they lead the NBA with 123.3 points per game, and they rank second in pace in the NBA. They average 16.6 fast break points, and I believe the keys to success to winning this series for the Pacers, it has to be not settling on the offensive end of the floor. Knowing how Tom Thibodeau creates schemes defensively for the Knicks, I know the number one priority for them is forcing the Pacers forcing the Pacers to play isolation basketball, forcing the Pacers to play a brand of basketball that is not consistent with their game plan, that will throw them off their game, settling into half court offenses, and knowing this Pacers team all season, that is not how they play. They like to get on transition. They like to push the ball. They like Tyrese Halliburton likes throwing those full court passes to Turner or Siakam or whoever it may be. They love getting the defenses off their toes, and I believe New York Knicks do have options to do that as far as containing the three is concerned, but I don't believe they have an answer when it comes to Pascal Siakam and Miles Turner. Now, for New York, I think Isaiah Hartenstein had a great series going up against Joel Embiid, considering the fact that Mitchell Robinson got injured throughout their series and there was no Julius Randle. He had a very, very solid series, in my opinion. But the fact that you're going up against 2 guys in Siakam and Turner, who I believe are one of the more underrated front court duos in this league, 2 guys who can stretch their game beyond the arc, 2 guys who are healthy, unlike Embiid, 2 guys who are just great all around offensive players considering their position. I believe it will be a really, really hard time for Isaiah Hartenstein or whoever is going to be on those two, whether it's Precious Achua or Isaiah Hartenstein or maybe even Josh Hart at times. It's just going to be a hard matchup for them. And I believe both of those guys will thrive. They did versus Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez. And I expect the same throughout this series as well. And when we go back to that Buck series, I believe one of the key reasons why the Pacers really did have the advantage is the fact that they went back home to Indiana to Gainbridge Fieldhouse tied 1-1. Stealing a game at Madison Square Garden, that will be a huge, huge win for Rick Carlisle and the rest of this team. And if you can get Tyrese Halliburton going, especially from beyond the arc, that would be huge. I believe Tyrese Halliburton shot like 29% from three. It was less than 30, it was less than 30%. If he can get going from beyond the arc, the plays around the basketball, I believe the New York Knicks will have a really, really hard time. Because once again, Tyrese didn't have a great series. He averaged 16 points, 9 assists. Now, I know Tyrese Halliburton needs one of the best point guards in this game. In this game, he is an elite player. He is a superstar. And I know 16-9 is not what we're gonna get in this series. I expect at least him dropping 25 for real. I think this will be a huge, huge series for him and his legacy as well. Now let's move on to the Knicks here. I'm just going through, the numbers here. Jalen Brunson, historic performance throughout that series. Now, in the first couple of games, game one, game two, very, very inconsistent play from him. But he really, really picked up the pace when the series shifted to Philly, and throughout the series, he averaged 35 points per game, 4 rebounds, 9 assists. And he did not go through this series alone. He had some great production from the role players as well. Josh Hart giving you 17 points per game, he's giving you 12 rebounds, 4.5 assists. OG Anunoby, 15 points per game, almost 7 rebounds, and Dante DiVincenzo giving you 12. And also, we have to talk about the production from Miles McBride. Miles McBride, who knew he would be the savior for the Knicks going into the postseason? He's shooting 48% from the field and 43% from three. Great production. And I believe the keys to success for the Knicks, it has to be establishing the pace. Don't get forced into that fast-paced offense that Indiana plays every single game for 48 minutes. If you can establish your pace like the way you did versus Philadelphia, I think you will have a solid series. Once again, you got to force Indiana into half-court offense and force isolation ball and crash the boards. And that's something that they were able to do successfully versus Philadelphia. But the reason why I don't believe the Knicks will win the series, once again, the inability to contain Siakam and Turner. And I will preach that until this series is over. I think those two will be a really, really big problem. And I don't believe the best player in this series for the Pacers will be Tyrese Halliburton. I don't believe it will be Miles Turner. It will be Pascal Siakam. Most of these guys believe. I think we've forgotten as a league how great Pascal Siakam is and how big of an impact he has made since he got traded to Indiana at the trade deadline. We're forgetting that this man, when healthy, is a consistent all-star. And at times he can even be an all-star starter. He is an all-NBA caliber player. A guy that can do any and everything on the offensive end of the floor. I believe he will be the best player in this series with the Pacers, and Tom Thibodeau has to find a way to contain him immediately. Jalen Brunson will have a great series, and I believe he will see the same amount of production from Harden, OG, and Dr. DiVincenzo and Miles McBride. But at the end of the day, that Pacers team is scary, especially when pushing the ball in transition. I believe that's I think that's the kryptonite for the New York Knicks, playing a team where they are able to push the ball at such a fast pace. I think that's one of the things that has really halted them from getting like a top 3 seed in the East all season long. We saw how the Knicks performed without OG Anunoby. Their record was almost 500 or pretty much 500 without him. They did not look the same defensively. He's here. I'm interested. I'm interested to see the matchups defensively that the Knicks throw out the Pacers. But overall, I do expect this to be like a 7 game series here. This will be a series that I'm very, very in tune with, and there's just a lot of great things to get into here as far as pace is concerned and matchups. My number one question in this series is who will be guarding Pascal Siakam for 48 minutes? And the more I appreciate, the more I believe it. That Pascal Siakam, I think he's gonna have like a 30 point per game series, and he will eat. And so will Jalen Brunson as well. This will come down to Game 7. Come down to the hustle plays, the hustle stats, loose balls, offensive rebounds. Who's able to provide more energy throughout the series. And from the Pacers, and I'm going back to Indiana 1-1, getting the game at Madison Square Garden, going into Game 3. I will be satisfied. But overall, my final prediction is I'm going with the Indiana Pacers winning this series in 7 games. So with that being said, this has been Sports Now. I'm Darius, and we will see you on the next episode as we continue to cover the NBA playoffs for the entire postseason. So with that being said, I'm Darius, and we will see you later. Peace.